Updating Statutes for the Advanced Legal Research course at Boston College Law School. When your research involves a statute, one of the first things you need to do is think about the timeline of your issue and whether it involves past or future behavior. When you're advising a client about current or future behavior, you'll want the most recent version of the statute. But if you're researching law for an event that happened in the past, you need to be sure you're looking at the version of the statute that was in effect at the relevant time. And when you're advising a client on issues involving future compliance, it may be necessary for you to keep an eye on pending legislation. Because laws change, you need to be sure you're looking at the law as it actually is now or at the time of relevant actions. Whether you are using a print code or an online version, there is generally a lag between a law's enactment and publication as a session law and the incorporation of those changes in the statutory code. So the first step in verifying that you are looking at a current law is to check the currency statement of the code you are using. Deluxe services like Lexis and Westlaw show their currency statements on every page of the code. Here we can see at the top of this and every statute on Lexis the statement of how up-to-date this code is. This is not the date of this particular section, it's a statement of the last session law incorporated into the code. That is why this is stated as current through Public Law 11878, approved July 30th, 2024. It's not 17 U.S.C. Section 101 that was approved on July 30th, 2024. It is Public Law 11878, which has nothing to do with copyright, that was approved that day. Westlaw makes us work a little harder to find out how current the code we are working with is. At the top of each statute is a link to the bottom of the document. Here we see that the U.S. Code on Westlaw on the day I made these slides was also current through Public Law 11878. To find the currency of the U.S. Code on Bloomberg Law, we need to first check on the General Info link. This code is also current through Public Law 11878. Again, the currency of the code is measured in terms of the latest session law that has been incorporated into the topical arrangement of statutes. Here is the currency statement for the U.S. Code from the Office of the Law Revision Council, the people who actually compile and maintain the code. This version of the code, the day I made this, was current through Public Law 11878, which is signed into law on July 30th, 2024. This page also states that each section has a currency date at the top and will alert the user to any pending updates. Today, all four codes happen to be current to the same public law, probably because Congress has been in recess. But since each of the codes updates on a different schedule, at any time, one may be more up-to-date than the others. The U.S. Code at the Office of the Law Revision Council site also includes a statement that the code section on this page is the law that was in effect on a particular date. This page says it was up to date as of the day before I made this slide. Sometimes when a particular section has been amended, that page will be more up to date than the rest of the code on this site. Some public websites can be a little more difficult to use. For example, the Massachusetts legislature does not include a statement of how up-to-date the code is on every page, but only places that information on the General Laws Search and Browse page. At the bottom of that page is a statement. This site is periodically updated to reflect any changes made to the general laws. This site includes all amendments to the general laws passed before April 30th, 2024. The page directs us to the next step in updating this code, locating those laws passed after the last revision. In this case, there's a link to the Massachusetts Session Laws of 2024. From there, we can scan the 2024 laws not yet incorporated into the Massachusetts Code to see if any will change the code section we are interested in. The online code only includes laws passed before April 30th, 2024, so we would need to scan the session laws passed April 30th and later. By the way, not every law takes effect on being signed by the executive. In Massachusetts, many statutes have an effective date in the text of the statute itself. A bill that does not have an effective date will be effective 90 days after it was signed by the governor. And not every act gets incorporated into the general laws. only those of a permanent and general nature, so none of the laws on this screen will change the code. But there are newer acts that will change the code, such as Chapter 135, an act modernizing firearm laws, which was signed by the governor on July 25th. It makes changes to many code provisions, including General Laws Chapter 6, Section 172M. Premium services such as Lexis and Westlaw provide additional indications that a code section has recently changed or is about to change. Lexis alerts the user to pending legislation and future amendments on the Info tab, as well as providing a notice that this section has more than one version with different effective dates. On the day that I made these slides, Lexis has two versions of this code section available. The one in effect at the time the slides were made, and the one that will take effect on October 23, 2024, which incorporates changes made by Chapter 135. Westlaw puts a red flag at the top of a statute to indicate the law has been amended or held unconstitutional. Lower down, there's a red flag with a link to the session law that amends this code section, and also a yellow flag to indicate proposed legislation. Bills on Westlaw provide information on the code sections that will be affected if the legislation passes, which in the case of this bill is amendments in 80 places in the Massachusetts Code. The History tab, under the Validity heading, provides links to enacted and proposed legislation, which we can use to find the language of the version enacted and the changes to the section of the code we are dealing with. Last time I updated this video, the services were reversed, and Westlaw had versions of the existing and future code sections, while Lexis only had a link to the enacted legislation, but within a few days, both services had both versions of the statute that was about to change. The latest changes to federal statutes can be found using the classification tables at the Office of the Law Revision Council. There are also historical tables for previous congressional sessions. For each session of every Congress, there is a listing in public law order and in U.S. Code order. These classification tables detail the effects of each session law on the U.S. Code section by section. If the legal issue you are dealing with relates to past actions, you need to find out if the law you are looking at is the same as the law that was in effect at the time of the action in question. Westlaw code pages have a Compare Versions button that compares the current version of that section with the previous version of that code section. Under the History tab, we can find multiple previous versions of the law as it was back until 1966, if they exist. We can also select a particular prior version of a statute to compare with the current version, or prior versions from two different times, to identify the language that has changed between versions. Most prior versions have specific dates they were in effect. For others, we may need to read the actual amendments, since there are some laws that have varying effective dates. Lexis Plus has the ability to compare versions of the U.S. Code section as well. Lexis archives each code section as of January 1 of each year. Compare versions on Lexis using a pull-down menu to select the versions from Lexis current and annual archived codes back to 1992. Lexis let us view our results as an overlay or side-by-side. Some prior versions are too old to be in Lexis and Westlaw. Use the History of a Code section, which appears below the text on Lexis, to determine the public law numbers, citations, and dates of enactments, and every amendment to that section. Westlaw calls this the credits, and it too appears after the text of the section. Both services provide links to the public laws. If you need versions of statutes that are too old to be on Lexis or Westlaw, Hein Online has PDF versions of every edition and supplement of the official U.S. Code ever published, as well as full run of statutes at large. The easiest way to access public laws is through their public law numbers or their statutes at large citations. Hein Online also contains the session laws of all 50 states and a number of historical state codes useful in tracing the history of a state statute.